the modal verb need and the ordinary verb need to。上堂提過 need 用作動詞或者情態動詞，今堂繼續講 tenses。點解使用 need 嘅作動詞或者情態動詞嘅時候會遇到困難呢？ Need is a semi-modal verb because in some ways it is like a modal verb and in other ways like a main verb. We use need mostly in the negative form to indicate that there's no obligation or necessity to do something. The main difference between need as a verb and need as a modal verb. Need as a transitive verb is followed by a noun or pronoun object. For example, I need a drink. Do you need anything? It can be followed by an infinitive with to. For example, she needs to rest. You don't need to worry. But it can be followed by to without a following infinitive. For example, you can stay longer if you need to. The use of need as a modal verb, usually followed by an infinitive without to. This is the only thing you need do. The modal verb need is mainly used in questions and negatives which are formed without do. For example, need I pay now? You need not worry. In American English, except for a few phrases, such as need I say more, the modal verb is used only in formal language and some generism. Needn't. The negative need not is often shortened to needn't in conversation and informal writing. Note: the modal verb need does not change its form, so the third-party singular of the present tense does not end in s. For example, it need not take the exam. The ordinary transitive verb need has a regular past tense needed. For example, they needed to be careful. The modal verb need has no past tense, but it can be used in the pattern need not have, needn't have, followed by a past participle, to show that although someone did something, it was not necessary. For example, you needn't have waited for me. The ordinary transitive verb has a future tense will need. For example, you will need to show your passport. In many cases, especially in questions and negatives using the simple present tense followed by an infinitive, there are two possible patterns. For example, need I come with you? Is the same as do I need to come with you? He needn't come is the same as he doesn't need to come. Not usually progressive. If you need something, you must have it because it is necessary. For example, you need some warm clothes for the winter. Jack needs a ride home from football practice. I don't need any advice from you. Will you be needing any help? Other usage of need as a verb. Need something for something. For example, I need $5.50 for the bus. Need someone to do something. For example, I need Paul to help me carry these books downstairs. Task 1. Fill in the blanks with must, mustn't, had to, don't need to. Answer. 1. You don't need to go. You can stay here if you want. 2. It's Laura's birthday tomorrow. I mustn't forget to buy her a present. 3. The restaurant in the hotel won't be busy tonight before the Chinese New Year. We don't need to reserve a table. 4. I was very busy last week. I had to work every evening. 5. I want to know what has happened. You must tell me. Answer. 6. I must hurry or I'll be late. 7. Why were you so late? I had to wait half an hour for a bus. 8. We don't need to decide now. We can decide later. 9. It's a boring film. You don't need to see it. 10. It's a wonderful film. You must see it. You needn't take off your shoes. Need. Form. Affirmative form. Affirmatives with the semi-modal need are not common, and they are used in formal contexts. There is almost always a negative word. For example, no one, nobody, nothing. Or phrase in the clause, even if the verb phrase is affirmative. No one need think that we are doing this every week. We are not doing this every week. Nobody need know the name of the person who made the complaint. Not a thing need change on this page. Need comes first in the verb phrase, after the subject and before another verb. Let's forget about it. No one need know about it. We can't use another modal verb with need. No one need read this. Not, no one need must read this. Or, no one must need read this. Negative form. Warning. We form the negative by adding not after need. Need not can be contracted to needn't. We don't use don't, doesn't, didn't with the semi-modal verb need. You need not spend a lot of money on presents. Formal. Or, you needn't spend a lot of money on presents. Not, you don't need to spend a lot of money on presents. Question form. The question form of the semi-modal need is not very common. It is rather formal. The subject and need change position to form questions. We don't use do, does, did. Need we write this down? Not, do we need to write this down? Need. Use. No obligation. Needn't. The semi-modal need is most common in the negative. We use it to show that there's no obligation. For example, we didn't spend much time on this topic. It's not going to be in the exam. Cans of soup needn't be kept in the fridge. No obligation in the past. The semi-modal need has no past simple form. Instead, we use didn't need to or didn't have to when we express no obligation in the past. For example, I didn't need to buy any books. They were all in the library. Main verb need plus to. Or, I didn't have to buy any books. They were all in the library. Not, I didn't need to buy any books. They were all in the library. Unnecessary event. We use needn't have plus ed form to refer to events which happened but which the speaker considers were unnecessary. For example, you needn't have waited for me. You waited for me, but it wasn't necessary. You needn't have bought so much food. There are only 3 of us staying for the weekend. You bought a lot of food, but it wasn't necessary. Semi-modal need and main verb need. We can use main verb need as an alternative to semi-modal need. Main verb need is followed by to and it changes with person, number, and tense. I, you, we, they need to. She, he, it needs to. I, you, she, he, it, we, they needed to. Comment. In these examples, the meaning is the same for semi-modal need and the main verb need plus to. Warning. We must use the main verb need when it is followed by a noun phrase or ing clause. You don't need, noun phrase, an umbrella. Not, you needn't an umbrella. My hair doesn't need ing clause cutting for at least another month. Not, my hair needn't cutting for at least another month. Typical error. The main verb need is followed by to when used with another verb. I need to have my hair cut. Not, I need have my hair cut. Task 2. Fill in needn't have to or didn't have and the correct form of the verb in brackets. I needn't have gone to the office yesterday. I went there only to find that I had forgotten it was Sunday. 2. I didn't have to go to the office yesterday as my boss told me to have holiday. 3. I needn't have phoned the plumber. I learned later that my wife had already phoned him. 4. I didn't have to phone the plumber. I knew that my wife had already phoned him. Five. You needn't have brought your umbrella after all. It hasn't rained. 6. The weather forecast was for the fine weather, so I knew I didn't have to bring my umbrella. 7. I needn't have washed these clothes. I didn't know they had already been washed. 8. I needn't have cooked a meal last night because we went out and the food I prepared was uneaten. Now, do the exercise to test yourself. Bye.